I want you to unsubscribe from my channel. I do. I actually encourage you to unsubscribe. All right, everyone. So I want to talk to you guys about people unsubscribing from my channel. Why do people unsubscribe from my channel? Well, there is this thing called YouTube Analytics, and this YouTube analytics system actually will let you know which of your videos are provoking people to unsubscribe from your channel. And so let's say you upload a video, you think the video is great, you upload the video, and maybe it's getting a decent amount of views, but before you know it, YouTube Analytics lets you know 3 people have unsubscribed from your channel because of your video that you thought was so great. And so that leaves you thinking, why are people unsubscribing from my channel because of this video? Well, I will tell you from my own experience why people are unsubscribing from my channel. So when I look at YouTube Analytics, one thing that I notice is that the types of videos that I do that tend to get people to unsubscribe are the videos in which I am warning people about the revival of Nazism. And it is very strange, right? People may ask the question, Ted, what do you mean by the revival of Nazism? Nazism is something that is limited to World War II, the 1930s, the 1940s. But if you look at what's been happening in Europe lately, it is very obvious that Nazism is making a comeback. If you look at German politics, for example, in Germany, the second biggest party in Germany is an ultra-nationalist party. The AfD, the Alternative for Deutschland Party, one of the biggest leaders of the AfD and by far the most famous leader of the AfD is Björn Höcke. Björn Höcke used to write articles praising the Third Reich. Björn Höcke used to write articles for Nazi publications. Björn Höcke has expressed his hatred for Holocaust memorials. Björn Höcke wants to revive German militarism. Björn Höcke says that one day a great Führer will come from a cave in some mountain in Germany somewhere, and he will be the savior for Germany, and he will restore glory to the Reich. That's his words. That's his rhetoric. That's the type of rhetoric that this guy expresses, and it is quite obvious that this guy is a Nazi. And so I see this reality, I see this phenomenon, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, Nazism is making a comeback. Nazism is reviving. And you see it happening in Germany, the country that created Nazism, the country that birthed, that spawned Nazism, the country that elected Adolf Hitler, the country that orchestrated the greatest policy of extermination of Jews in the history of Jewish people. And we see ultra-nationalism and German militarism reviving in this country. And I'm thinking, this should scare people. This should concern people. This should make people filled with consternation. Why aren't people shocked? Why aren't enough people shocked? And truly, why aren't conservatives shocked by this? And so I look around me and I'm thinking, okay, are there conservatives who are shocked by this? And the answer is the great majority, 99% of conservatives, when they see the news about ultra-nationalism reviving in Germany, are thinking, wow, this is great. If you don't believe me, go to X/Twitter. Go to X/Twitter and see what right-wingers, what conservatives are saying about the AfD, or what conservatives are saying about the revival of German nationalism They're saying, wow, this is great. Wow, this is amazing. Wow, look, Germans are finally saying that they are proud of being German. Wow, look, Germans are finally standing up. And one of the reasons why you have conservatives praising ultra-German nationalism, even though it was ultra-German nationalism that led to the Holocaust, that led to World War I and World War II, is because they have this fixation on destroying wokeism. Now, I don't like wokeism. I think wokeism is evil. It is a part of the religion of Sodom. It's evil. It's demonic. I don't like it. But here's the thing. People look at wokeism and they say, okay, who is against wokeism? We are going to ally with those people. We are going to ally with those cults of personality because they are anti-woke. And so in the name of fighting the wokies, conservatives will side with pretty much anyone. They will side with members of Sodom. They will side with Nazis. And so they will say, well, we are against Sodom. So then why in the hell are you siding with Sodomites Sodomites in the name of fighting Sodom. If you side with Sodomites, it doesn't matter if you are doing so in the name of fighting the woke, you are still going to end up with Sodom. And so you have conservatives who really throw out all of their principles. They throw out all their principles. They don't care. All of their principles are thrown out of the window. And so because they have no boundaries, because they have really no red lines, because they have really no limits when it comes to fighting the woke, they will side with the worst of the worst. They will side with Nazis. They will side with Sodom. And so they see these Nazis rising up and they say, well, yeah, maybe they are Nazis or whatever, but they're anti-woke. Or you have conservatives saying they're not Nazis, they're just good patriots. Either way, these people are leading themselves astray, and they are leading many other people astray, because other conservatives see these types of conservative influencers talking, and they see these influencers praising German nationalism, and they say, well, this must be great. These German nationalists are just patriots who are fighting the woke left. And so this explains, or this partially explains at least, why you have conservatives siding with Nazis, or why you have conservatives who are utterly oblivious to the fact that these German nationalists are in fact just Nazis. And so when I talk about this phenomenon, and when I warn people about the revival of Nazism or the revival of German militarism, a lot of people get upset and they will leave my channel. So for example, Elon Musk did his infamous gesture, right? He was speaking at this inauguration event for Donald Trump, and he does the gesture. He actually does the salute. He does the whole thing, right? And it was obviously a Nazi salute. It was very, very clear. It was very, very conspicuous. I mean, the guy's arm was as clear as a katana. The blade of his hand was very, very straight, and he did it at an angle. It was very clear, and he did it twice. And this was really in the midst of Elon Musk really promoting the AfD, really advancing this ultra-German nationalist party, this German militarist party. And he said that the only hope for Germany is this repackaged Nazi party, and he does the salute. Well, I did a video about it after it happened, and I told people, guys, this is Elon Musk. This is the guy who promotes this, who promotes and who really is marketing for this repackaged Nazi party, this party that has people like Bjorn Höcke, who says that the savior of Germany is going to come out of a cave and he's going to save the Reich. He's going to bring glory to the Reich and all this stuff. He's basically going to revive the Reich. Bjorn Höcke is literally awaiting for another Hitler. He is awaiting for this Führer who is going to bring glory to the Reich. And this is the most famous leader of the AfD. And this is now the second biggest party of Germany. And there's Elon Musk praising this party, pushing for this party, marketing for this party, advancing this party. And he's saying that it's Germany's only hope. And then he does the salute. It's very obvious what side this guy is on. It's very, very clear. And I remember doing a video about this. And I said, guys, we are seeing the revival of Nazism. It is very, very clear that Hitler is making a comeback. And YouTube analytics let me know that I lost 3 subscribers because of this video. You lost 3 subscribers. And I'm thinking, wow, right? And I noticed the types of videos that I do in which subscribers leave my channel are the types of videos in which I am warning people about this revival of Nazism. Now, this is not always the case, but it tends to be the case wherein people leave my channel because they don't like the fact that I am warning people about the revival of Nazism. And this really does bespeak the type of political climate that we are living in. We are living in a political climate in which a lot more people are getting into ultranationalism, and this is very, very clear just by the German elections. We are seeing a lot more people getting into this admiration for Adolf Hitler. We are seeing a lot more people getting into Holocaust denial. We are seeing a lot more people getting into anti-Semitism. All of these things, all of these isms, all of these very, very dark and sinister and insidious ideologies are making a comeback. And it's very, very surreal. It's very surreal to see this. And we are truly, truly living in a very dark vibe shift. We are living in a shift in the vibe. And this dark shift in the zeitgeist, in the political atmosphere, in the ideological climate, whatever you want to call it, this dark shift is very, very clear online. It's very conspicuous on the internet. And if I do a video saying, hey, nationalism is great, and I've never done a video like this, but let's say hypothetically, if I do a video saying, hey, European nationalism is great, and the Europeans are destined by God to run civilization, I guarantee you I would get a lot more views. How do I know this? Well, I'll tell you, because recently I uploaded a video in which I said that God chose the Europeans to lead Christendom, but the Europeans chose the very path of destruction that Israel chose. And I think I lost maybe 1 or maybe 2 subscribers because of that particular video. Why is that? Well, because I didn't sit there and blow smoke up the ass of this nationalist revival. I didn't say, yes, God destined the Europeans to lead Christendom, and we are going to see a revival in Christendom. We're going to see a revival in the wonderful ideology of pan-Europeanism or some form of European nationalism. I didn't sit there and LARP. I didn't sit there and glaze some cult of personality. I told people, yes, God did choose the Europeans to lead Christendom. That's very clear. That was prophesied in the book of Genesis. For example, in the book of Genesis, Noah, right after he got out of the ark, he grew a vineyard, he got drunk, and Ham mocked him, and his son Ham laughed at him, and Noah wakes up and he proclaims a prophecy to his 3 sons, and he says, blessed be the God of Shem. Why did Noah say that? Well, because Shem, his descendants were destined by God to lead the world in religion. That's why the Hebrews were chosen to be a light to the world. That's why the Messiah comes from the line of Judah, who ultimately came from the line of Shem. And then after that, Noah says, Noah prophesizes that Japheth will reside in the tents of Shem. Well, what does that mean? That means that the mantle of religion, the leaders of God's religion, the leaders of the religion of the God of Shem will be the Europeans, the descendants of Japheth, because Japheth was the ultimate patriarch for the European peoples. And when the Bible talks about the tents of Shem, it's actually talking about the temples of Shem. And so by Japheth residing in the temples of Shem, what that means is that Shem is going to leave his temples. Those temples, those tents are going to be vacated, and they are going to be filled with Japhethites. And that's why after Israel rejected Christ as the Messiah, the Europeans would accept Christ as the Messiah, and the Europeans would lead Christendom. Sorry, I had to go in that whole long explanation. I'm just giving you guys a background of what I was saying. But here's the thing. This is what I think got some people upset. I said that before the time of Christ, a lot of the Jewish religious establishment started to get into tribalism, started to get into racism. And we see this, for example, in Shammai. Shammai was one of the major leaders for Judaism before the time of Christ. And Shammai hated foreigners. He actually really discouraged foreigners from entering the religion of Judaism, entering the religion of Shem. He really didn't like foreigners, and that way of thinking really began to dominate Jewish religious thought, the Jewish religious world. And then after the crucifixion of Christ, after the resurrection, that way of thinking really, really became quite dominant. It was dominant during the time of Christ, and this is why the Hebrews got so upset with Jesus when Jesus told the Judeans, you see this Gentile general, you see this Roman soldier that you guys hate so much. Well, he has more faith than all of the people in all of Israel. And that really upset the Judeans. Why? Because they were very tribalistic, they were very racialist, and they did not like foreigners. Well, after the resurrection, eventually what happened was the Jewish religious establishment declared that no foreigners would be allowed to make sacrifices in the temple, and that no sacrifices would be made on behalf of foreigners, and that included the Caesar, the leader of the Roman Empire. And so the Caesar heard this, and he said, oh, that's a declaration of war, and the Roman-Judean War commenced, and this eventually eventually led to the destruction of the temple. So what led to the demise of the Hebrews? What led to the demise of the Judeans? What led to their demise was racism. It was tribalism. And so they rejected the Messiah, and the church, or really the tent of Shem, was eventually filled with the descendants of Japheth. And that is why Christianity was led for the most part by Europeans. Christendom was led by Europeans, and the religion of Shem would be eventually led by Europeans. But the problem is that the descendants of Japheth would eventually go down the road, the very road of racialism that the descendants of Shem also treaded upon. And that is why you see in the 20th century a lot of the descendants of Japheth, a lot of the Europeans getting into Darwinism, a lot of the Europeans getting into racism, racialism, all that sort of thing. And you also see European Christians getting into this idea of mixing Christianity with racism, mixing Christianity with racialism. And this eventually leads to Nazism, and Nazism led to the demise of Germany. It led to the devastation and the destruction of Germany. So what happened? What happened in this case was the descendants of Japheth, a lot of the descendants of Japheth, treaded upon the same road to perdition that a lot of the descendants of Shem treaded upon. And just as the racialism of the Judeans led to the Roman-Judean War, which led to the destruction of the temple and really overall the devastation of Judea, so did the racialization of Christianity lead to Nazism, and it led to the devastation of a lot of the sons of Japheth, in particular the Germans. And so we see a lot of people getting into this way of thinking where they are mixing Christianity with racialism. But I pretty much warned people about this evil in this video, and it angered some people. Why? Because you have a lot of people who are getting into this way of thinking where racialism is seen as great, where even mixing Christianity with racialism is seen as great, and that's what they want to see. So in the beginning of my title, I said, God destined, or God chose the Europeans to lead Christendom. Wow, that gets people to click on it. And I think what angered people was me saying, hey, a lot of you sons of Japheth, a lot of you Christians out there are getting into this idea of mixing Christianity with racialism, where you say things like, yes, I'm a Christian, but I'm a European Christian. And that's a phenomenon that we are seeing a lot more of. A lot of people coming out saying, I'm a Christian, but I'm a European Christian. I'm a Christian, but I'm a German Christian. And so they make Christian into this, they make Christianity into really this idea that they can fit into their nationalist worldview, or really their racialist worldview. And it is very dangerous. And so my warning to these people is that you are treading upon the very road to perdition that a lot of the Judeans treaded upon, and that led to their demise. And a lot of people didn't like this, because people want me to praise Europe, or they want me to praise European nationalism, or they want me to praise Elon Musk. It's like when Elon Musk did the salute, I did a video about it, and then all of a sudden 3 people unsubscribed from my channel. Recently, I did a video about Victor Davis Hansen. And Victor Davis Hansen is an American Jewish historian, which means he should know better, who recently did a video saying some very nice things about the AfD, the biggest German nationalist party right now, and right now the second biggest party in all of Germany. And Victor Davis Hansen is an historian who knows about the history of Nazism, and here he is saying, oh, the AfD is a party that is filled with these patriots who are like American conservatives, and the political ideology of the AfD is very close to American conservatism, and that is just obvious nonsense. It is obvious nonsense. Now, why do I say this? Well, it's quite obvious. It's quite obvious why. The AfD is filled with ultra-German nationalists, German ultra-nationalists who want to revive the Reich. And in fact, and I said this in my video, the AfD is really just a repackaged Nazi party. And people unsubscribed from my channel because of that video, because a lot of people like Victor Davis Hansen. They admire Victor Davis Hansen. And if you look at the video in which Victor Davis Hansen is saying nice things about the AfD, saying things like, well, they're just like American conservatives. And if you read the comments underneath the video, it's filled with these sycophants who say things like, oh, great video, you know, wonderful video, it's a great video. And people will say things like, oh, Victor Davis Hansen, he's one of the great thinkers of our time, and, you know, all this nonsense. And you look at this video by Hansen, and he's sitting there praising this German militarist party, and that really shouldn't surprise me because Victor Davis Hansen is a neocon. So, I mean, it doesn't really shock me that we have a neocon saying that a German militarist party is kosher. But here's the thing: is that Victor Davis Hansen is an historian, and he knows about the history of Nazism, which means that he should know better. So either he didn't do his research, and in that case, he doesn't give a damn about the truth. And in that case, he is not really an adequate historian, and he is just a BS artist. Or he does know about the Nazism of the AfD, and he is leading people astray. And really, the guy is a sellout. He really is a sellout, because as a Jewish historian, you should know that a resurgence in German nationalism is very, very concerning. If you look at the history of German nationalism, whether or not you go all the way back to Bismarck, or if you go to World War I or World War II, which is what everyone knows about, you will see the evils of German nationalism. If you go back to Bismarck, you will read about how Bismarck wanted to exterminate the Polish race. He wanted to exterminate Polish people, and that's exactly what Hitler wanted. If you look at World War I, you will see how the Germans enabled and facilitated the Armenian genocide. And if you go to World War II, well, we all know what happened in World War II. Regardless of which of these eras that you choose, you will see the evils of German nationalism, and you will see that, therefore, a resurgence in German nationalism should be very, very concerning. And Mr. Hansen, being an historian, knows better. So this is why I said in my video that Victor Davis Hansen is evil and that he is leading people astray. And another thing that I mentioned in that video was that there was a leader of the AfD party. This party, right? So Victor Davis Hansen says that the AfD party is like an American conservative party, and that they're like the American conservatives who want more rights for gun owners and all this stuff. And it's just complete garbage. He says nothing about the Nazism of the AfD, and it makes you wonder why. Why is it that Victor Davis Hansen never brought up the Nazism of the AfD? Why is it that Victor Davis Hansen never brought up the fact that Bjorn Höcke, one of the leaders of the AfD, wants to revive the Reich, and that he has expressed hatred towards Holocaust memorials? And this guy, this Hansen guy, is Jewish, and he's an historian. So why in the hell are you not exposing this party? This is what I'm trying to say. Like, you would think, okay, you see this this German militarist party becoming the second biggest party in the country, and it's filled with Nazis. And you have a Jewish historian who's like, yeah, they're like American conservatives. They just want more gun rights for Germans. Yeah, that's right. And you have this Vance guy saying that the mainstream parties of Germany need to stop firewalling the AfD, and it's just absolutely insane. I feel like I'm living in the Twilight Zone. I truly do. We see this Nazi party getting bigger and bigger, becoming more and more popular, becoming the second biggest party in all of Germany, and people are not shocked by this. It is absolutely surreal. And in the video that I did on Victor Davis Hansen being a sellout, I talked about how the AfD party used to have a leader by the name of, his name was Holger Arpe, I believe. Holger Arpe. And Holger Arpe was a minor leader of the AfD. He was, I think, more of a regional leader of the AfD, still a leader of the AfD. And Holger Arpe had a conversation with two other AfD leaders, two other AfD officials, in which he said that the AfD needs to just be nice to everyone. And you think, okay, be nice to everyone, right? That's great. Be nice to everyone. The AfD needs to be nice to everyone until it gets full power. And once we get full power, we are going to slaughter all of our political enemies. This is pretty much what this guy says. And he says, we're going to take all of our political enemies, and he mentions specifically the members of the Green Party and the members of the Social Democrat Party, the Social Democratic Party of Germany. And these are really some of the AfD's biggest enemies. But he said, we're going to take these enemies of ours and we're going to kill them all, and we're going to throw their corpses into ditches and cover their bodies with lime. This is what he says. And he says that we're going to set up guillotine centers like in the French Revolution, only we're not going to use guillotines that are sharp enough to decapitate one's head with just one movement. No. We're going to use dull blades. And we're going to lift the blade up. We're going to drop the blade on the back of the guy's neck, and it's not going to decapitate him. We're going to lift that blade back up, and we're going to drop it again, and we're going to keep doing this until the head is lobbed right off the body. So he doesn't even want quick deaths for his enemies. He wants his enemies to go through sadistic, excruciating manners of murder. And this guy expressed this dark and demonic and murderous fantasy with two other AfD members, and those AfD members didn't report him. And the only reason why the public knew about this was because the mainstream media exposed the conversation. That was it. The AfD didn't give a damn because the AfD agrees with this ideology. And those two other AfD officials who heard him say this in the conversation did not report him because they agreed with him. And this really does bespeak what the AfD actually wants to do. The AfD wants to slaughter people. The AfD wants to commit acts of mass murder. It is a murderous, sanguinary, sadistic, diabolical, and sinister party. And there is Victor Davis Hansen, who is a Jewish historian, saying nothing but nice things about this party, not criticizing this party. And this is why I said this guy is a sellout. He is an absolute sellout. Even if he doesn't know these facts about the AfD, he is an historian. And as an historian, you should know that when you see a resurgence in German nationalism, that you should be spurned to actually research such nationalism. Because given the history of German nationalism, it should concern all of us that it's reviving, given its very, very bloody record. Very bloody record. But people unsubscribe to my channel because of that video, because you have all of these sycophants who just love Victor Davis Hansen, just like people unsubscribed from my channel when I talked about Elon Musk backing Nazism. And just like people got upset when I said, look, you see J.D. Vance supporting German nationalism, you see Elon Musk supporting German nationalism, we are literally seeing the United States pushing for the revival of Nazism. And they're saying, Germany, you need to spend more on your military. And by the way, Victor Davis Hansen brought this up. He brought up how the United States is pushing Germany to spend more money on its military. I see that and I'm thinking, okay, you are pushing the Germans to bring back German militarism. And the more and more you push the Germans to become militarily independent, the more you are enabling the revival of German militarism, and the more you are facilitating the creation of a Fourth Reich. Why do I say this? Because if you have an independent Germany that is not constrained by the United States, not constrained by NATO, what you will have is a Germany that is the most militarily powerful country in Europe, and it will lead a pan-European force. And that force will be under its control, and it will essentially be another Reich. Very, very simple. Very simple. And it will be on a warpath, and it will be very, very ugly. And so I have said, look, you see the United States pushing for the creation of another German Reich, pushing for the revival of German militarism, pushing for the revival of Nazism, and no one gives a damn, and people get upset when I bring up this reality, this dark reality. And so here is what I want to say to you people who don't like what I have to say when it comes to this topic. I want you to unsubscribe from my channel. I do. I actually encourage you to unsubscribe. I exhort you to unsubscribe. Why is that? Because, well, for two reasons. One, why would you be subscribed to a channel that you don't like? That's the first reason. And secondly, I don't really want people who are either sympathetic to Nazism or who are just absolute haters of knowledge that they will actually support a revival of Nazism, even if they don't know it, subscribing to my channel. I don't want those types of people subscribing to my channel. And here's the thing. People will say, well, Ted, maybe it's just innocent naivete and all this stuff. There is no excuse for this. We were told since we were children about the evils of German nationalism. Literally, we saw Saving Private Ryan, we saw Schindler's List, we saw all of the plethora of documentaries on the evils of Nazism. We saw all of the documentaries on World War I and World War II. There literally is no excuse. When we see German militarism coming back, when we see Nazism coming back, or ultra-nationalism being revived in Germany, and when we see the United States pushing for it, just like there were people in Wall Street who supported Hitler, just like you had these American industrialists like Mr. Ford, or like Mr. Sostenes Ben, who was a big American industrialist backing Hitler, the fact that we are seeing this rhyming of history really should spur us to inquire deeply and to research this current phenomenon that we are seeing in our present-day political climate. There is no excuse, and it goes back to what the Bible says in Proverbs chapter 1. It says right there that because you hated knowledge, God will laugh at you when you face your demise. Going back to the Roman-Judean War, the Judeans ended up in a war with the Romans because they hated the foreigners. And in their haughtiness, in their arrogance, in their hubris, in their jingoism, in their egoism, they hated the foreigner, thinking that they were superior to the foreigner. And what ended up happening was that arrogance led them to say no sacrifices for foreigners in the temple, and that led to a war, and that led to their demise. And they should have known better, but because they hated knowledge, their hatred of knowledge led to their demise. They should have known that God wants all nations to worship him. They should have known that God wants all of the world to reside in the tent of Shem, but they wanted to hog the tent of Shem for themselves. And that is why Noah made that prophecy, because this was foreknown. That's why Noah made that prophecy in which he said, okay, blessed be the God of Shem. Shem, you are going to be the keeper. You are going to be the resider of the tent, meaning the temple, meaning the institution of religion. But eventually, Japheth is going to live in your tent. In other words, Japheth is going to take the mantle from you, the mantle of religion from you, and that's exactly what happened. The Judeans rejected Christ as their Messiah, and the Europeans accepted Christ, and they led Christendom, and they resided in the tent of Shem. And so the Judeans in the time of Christ, not wanting the foreigners to be in the tent of Shem, eventually treaded upon a road towards their demise. In fact, they were already on that road in the time of Christ. And remember what Christ said when he whipped out the merchants out of the temple. He said that the temple is supposed to be a house of prayer for all nations, and they hated Christ because of that, because they hated foreigners. And so when the Judeans said, no sacrifices for foreigners, including the Caesar, that arrogance led to their demise. But they should have known better. They should have known better. And the fact that they didn't bespeaks that they hated knowledge. And what does it say in the first chapter of Proverbs? God says, for how long will you hate knowledge? And then the chapter says, eventually you will meet your demise. Eventually you will meet your destruction, and God will laugh at you because you hated knowledge. And you see people today seeing this revival of German nationalism, this revival in German militarism, and they think it's great. They hate knowledge, and they forsake the wisdom that history teaches us. And because of that, humanity is going to tread upon a path towards perdition. You guys just heard some theology. God bless.